What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here. We've had the Asus ePad Transformer Prime in our offices for just about a day. Well, not enough time to run it through a full review and put it through the gamut of tests that we'd like. We have had just the right amount of time to put together some first impressions, what it's like to have quad-core, how that translates to operating system improvements, what it's like to the end user, how video looks, how text looks, and all that kind of things that come together to make a whole tablet package. So as you evaluate whether or not you're going to jump up to a Tegra 3 quad-core tablet, hopefully this video will help you decide. Let's go ahead and take a first look at the Asus ePad Transformer Prime. Alright, so first let me run through specs of this guy, and it's highlighted by what's under the hood. NVIDIA's Tegra 3 processor, which is actually quad-core, and it does have a fifth companion core in there that does a lot of the background processing at a lower clock speed, so you get improved battery life. So from a pricing standpoint, we're looking at $499 for 32 gig or $599 for 64 gig. No word yet on US 3G pricing or if a 3G model will be available. It is running, as you can see here, Android 3.2 Honeycomb. Asus says that ice cream sandwich will be coming on it. So from a dimension standpoint, it's 263 by 180.8 by a very thin 8.3 millimeters. And you can see just how thin that device is right there and how responsive the accelerometer is as I try and show you the thinness. And all this is going to weigh 568 grams. You're looking at a 10.1 inch Super IPS Plus display. It's LED backlit with a resolution of 1280 by 800, and it's got Gorilla Glass. 12 hours battery, of course, that Tegra 3 chip we talked about, Gig of RAM, and again in that 32 or 64 gigabyte capacities. We're going to talk a lot about the camera, but it's got an 8 megapixel shooter on the back, but that's not the only camera that lives here. It's got a 1.2 megapixel shooter up front. I like saying shooter for camera. Makes me feel fancy. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the tablet. Let's go ahead and start with build quality. When I first reviewed the Asus ePad Transformer, the father or cousin of this guy, I talked about how it was one of the best Android tablets that I'd used, but the build quality felt a little bit plasticky. Not so with the Asus ePad Transformer Prime. The build quality here is outstanding. While the back is still plastic, it does have that brushed metal look and feel to it, and it's an extremely thin tablet. As you're using this, you're really not cognizant of any of the seams. The borders here that go from screen to back are very smooth. I haven't seen any gaps in there, so that means you're not going to get dust that's going to get trapped underneath here, which is always nice. They're a problem that I've had with tablets. Build quality here, at least initially, appears to be absolutely outstanding. The designers at Asus clearly spent a long time making sure that every design aspect of this tablet was accounted for, right down to the almost hidden speaker grills there that live there on the left-hand side. It's got a bit of that tapered look to it, and it sits very nicely on the desk without having any of that tapered sort of wobble that some tablets can have, especially a device like the iPad 1 that had a little bit of that wobble there. This guy sits very, very, very nicely. All right, so first question I had when I took this guy out of the box was speed. It's got a Tegra 3 chip in it. How fast is it going to be? We're still running a full test of benchmarks, so stay tuned to Techno Buffalo to see what those scores are. But how does the speed translate to everyday use? Very well. This is hands down the fastest tablet, not just from a spec standpoint, but from a usage standpoint that I have ever used. So this device has been a completely restarted. Nothing has been opened in the background. It's just extremely fast to scroll through here. Opening applications are an absolute breeze. I haven't had any issue multitasking. Things are just opening very, very, very quickly. And as I go through and sort of show you the speed of the tablet, it's one of those things that you have to actually use yourself. You can take my word for it that it's fast, but this thing is absolutely blistering. So let's go ahead and take a look at the browser. We'll show you a little bit of the speed here in the processor. So we'll go ahead, it's going to load up asus.com. We're connected just to Wi-Fi. And even just from a pinch to zoom standpoint, it's very fast. And one of the cool things that Asus has done, we'll talk a little bit about some of the Asus tweaks here. So you can see as I'm scrolling, there's this little bit of a bar here. And it lets you scroll a little bit easier if you don't feel like flicking. So this experience, at least thus far, for the first day has been very, very fast. Apps load extremely quickly, whether or not I'm loading, a really pretty intensive game, or whether or not I'm loading books to the browser. Things just work very quickly, as you'd expect from a device that's this powerful. There's the issue a little bit of the software not being fully optimized for quad-core. Things that are optimized for quad-core absolutely haul, and things that are optimized only for dual-core also absolutely haul, which is great for the end-user experience, which is ultimately of utmost importance. All right, so it's a tablet. It's mostly a big screen with a lot of big specs. So how does this screen look? Well, let me go ahead and show you. Let's go ahead and jump on into the gallery. The resolution here is 1280 by 800 again. So let's go ahead and start with photos and show you what photos look like. And obviously a little bit is lost in translation from the tablet to being recorded, to upload it to YouTube, to whatever connection or data speed you have while you're watching this and what resolution. But images here are absolutely beautiful. The screen on the original ePad Transform was great. The screen here sort of keeps up with that. Really beautiful. I took this thing outside in direct sunlight. And I had no problem with direct sunlight visibility, and I'll show you why when we get to some of the Asus tweaks in here. But the screen is absolutely beautiful. You also have an incredible amount of viewing angle. Here, as you look at this, you really don't have any sort of washout that you get from some other tablets, really regardless of the angle that you're looking at, regardless of the lights that I have here while I'm filming. The screen is just absolutely vibrant and extremely beautiful here as you go through and take a look at some of the images. But images aren't the only thing you're going to want to do on your tablet. What about videos? Let me go and show you what some videos look like here. The folks at Asus preloaded a few on here, and while I was viewing YouTube videos or videos that I took myself, things worked very nicely. So let's go ahead and look at videos. And we'll open up a NVIDIA Tegra 3 video. And it's going to go ahead and talk about Tegra 3, and you can see just how nicely things look here. If you want to rent a movie from the Android market or put a movie on that you bought yourself, it is an incredible video experience. It really looks nicely. It looks nice. 1280 by 800. It's not the highest resolution screen out there, but it does look, very nice to the end user experience. I'm not noticing any sort of pixelation at all, and especially when you're dealing with fast motion. Like if you're watching, sporting events or sports highlights or things that have a lot of quick movement to it, the refresh rate seems to be extremely high. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about text. Let's go ahead and look at Google Books. One of the apps I opened earlier. Let's go ahead and read Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. And you can see what text is going to look like on here. And of course, you can adjust the backlight to sort of suit your needs. And it's that Google Book experience that we've seen. And things look, pretty nice. You don't have any sort of pixelation here at all as you're going through and looking at text and books. And you've got a little bit of ice cream sandwich-esque things here. The menu buttons at the bottom sort of disappear to those three dots. You have to know where they are. If you go ahead and hit home, you can jump back. Let me show you the text on some website where you can zoom all the way in. Let's go ahead and launch Techno Buffalo. And this is probably a pretty good time to also talk about the keyboard that Asus has chosen to include. This is not my favorite keyboard, whether on Android or whether it's on an iPad or any other tablet operating system or any other mobile operating system. It's a little bit awkwardly designed. I do occasionally like having that full number row, but I didn't find the keyboard to be overly responsive. But one of the nice things about Android is that you can tweak the keyboard and you can customize the keyboard to find one that suits your needs the best. So let's go ahead and kick up Techno Buffalo here. There we go. And we'll go ahead and take a look at an article and we'll see what some text look like. So we've got, let's pick something interesting. Breaking news, GamePro magazine is no more. Just sad, I used to read that magazine all the time as a kid. So we'll go ahead and scroll down a little bit to hear some text, and we'll do a little bit of zooming in. And as we zoom all the way in, at least as far as it's going to let us go, we're not having any pixelation at all. The text is very crisp, and the text is very, very, very clear. So don't have to worry about that much at all. And as I'm going through and using this tablet, you notice that my fingers are on here as well, and I got pretty clean hands. I just washed them. I wash them, several times a day. So they're not the dirtiest. I don't have greasy pizza fingers. But the screen was just cleaned before I started filming. And it is already just littered with fingerprints. Now, it's going to be true with a lot of tablets. This one seems to just suck in fingerprints. I wondered why they included a cleaning cloth with it. Now I know why. You're going to want to keep a shirt handy or some sort of cleaning cloth with you as you're using this tablet. Something to keep in mind. All right, so let's talk about games. This is one of the things that I was most looking forward to with the Transformer Prime. It was one of the things that Asus was really touting during some of the press demos, was how this thing is going to handle games. And this is one of the examples where you can see software that's optimized for quad core. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the games that takes most advantage of it. And of course, we'll go ahead and take a look at Riptide. I say of course, like you knew I was going to select Riptide. There are a lot of choices here. You can download a ton of optimized games from the Tegra Zone when this is going to be released. So we'll go ahead and touch to start. And you can see some of the, we'll go ahead and click erase and jump right in here. Alpha City, Tiger Shark. So this is a fun game for jet skiing, and you can sort of see the detail in the water here. It's going to tell me to race, and you control it with the accelerometer. But you can see sort of the amount of background detail that's here in the process that can be done. I'm going to crash into the wall. But it's really an impressive experience. Probably the most impressive game, though, that we played is Shadowgun. And this is a game that we actually hooked up via the HDMI port out on the side to an HD television in the office, and was playing on a big screen TV while using a wireless controller. And we'll talk about that in the full review and a gaming overview that we're going to do. But it is something that this is capable of doing, especially with the bigger horsepower. So let me show you what this looks like. It's very Gears of War-esque. So it's going to go ahead and load, and the graphics here are just really impressive. What's most exciting about this is what developers are going to be able to do as they get a hold of the hardware and begin to take advantage of everything that quad core is going to be capable of, and of course the Tegra 3 is going to be capable of. You know, the future is supposed to be very bright, and I expect it to be very bright. You know, we're probably looking at a paradigm-shifting tablet here as we sort of change from battery-draining dual-core to really battery-sipping quad-core. So you can go ahead and see what things look like and see the graphics here. You know, it is, I'd say, last-generation console quality. So, you know, it looks very close to, you know, PS2 original Xbox here. Things are just really beautiful, and this is an early game. You know, as developers get better chance, you're really going to see an improved experience. And again, go ahead and output this via HDMI out, which lives right there, to an HD television, and you can game either right on the tablet, or you can pick up, you know, a variety of wireless controllers to get your game on. Of course, this one is sort of PS3-esque or PlayStation-esque. Let's go ahead and exit out of this game, kind of despite how much I want to play it. Go ahead and rotate this back into landscape, and let's continue our first impressions. All right, so this is running Honeycomb, but there are a lot of NVIDIA little tweaks in here, and some of the best tweaks are actually these widgets. Widgets in Honeycomb, some people love them, some people don't. I really like what Asus has done with them. They don't take up a lot of space. You can still see the background. They sort of hover there. So you can see my location, the amount of emails I've got. This is really handy for battery, and there's a ton of others as well. So let's go ahead and show you what they are. So you can see Asus email, it's the Asus time, and then you've got sort of your stock Honeycomb ones. And I guess now stock ice cream sandwich they've got on the Galaxy Nexus. They're all very similar. But the Asus tweaks here are really nice, but they extend far past widgets. Let me go ahead and show you some of them here. So we'll jump into settings, take a look at Asus customized settings. And here's sort of where things kind of get interesting. So I mentioned earlier that it's got great outdoor visibility. Super IPS outdoor mode. So the screen brightness is set to a high level, consumes more battery power. So you can sort of determine whether or not you're indoor or outdoor. I'll just adjust the brightness for you here. Screenshots, so you can capture screenshots by holding the recent apps key, which is kind of a nice thing, and you can choose what file format you want, whether or not it's going to be JPEG or PNG for a little bit of improved quality here. This is probably one of the most interesting tweaks, is system performance. So normal mode, it's going to give you the most optimal performance. It's going to use those quad core whenever possible, and it'll use that companion core. The least balanced mode will obviously find a balance between the two of them there. And power saving mode is quite obviously going to power save for you. And it'll use that companion core at the low voltage or low processor low clock speed companion cord as often as it can. It's nice to sort of have these options without having to go through and tweak or do any hacking to control things here. A notification panel, Asus quick settings, and touchpad pointer style, so mouse cursor mode if you want. It'll sort of give you a cursor as you use it. And then you've got some settings for the optional keyboard dock, which we'll talk about in the full review, and you can see the unboxing of over on TechnoBuffalo. All right, so let me go ahead and show you some other cool things here, and I'll run through the stuff very quickly. The camera, it's got the 8 megapixel camera, takes pretty decent pictures, at least it appears to. But what's really cool is the video side of things. If I scroll into video, we take a look at some of the settings. This is one of the areas where you'll start seeing the advantages of quad core. So I go ahead and take a look at some of the options here, particularly that one right down below. I can get the glare out of the way. You've got time-lapse intervals. So actually this can take and process time-lapse video for you. So you can speed things up really quickly. And it works very nicely, and we'll do full demonstrations again in the full review. So in conclusion, first impressions, this is Honeycomb better than you've ever seen it. If you've experienced Honeycomb on another tablet and you've had a nice experience or maybe a less than nice experience, you haven't experienced Honeycomb until you've seen it on the Transformer Prime, which makes me even more excited about Ice Cream Sandwich on this. I was a bit skeptical and dubious that this was going to launch without Ice Cream Sandwich. The software wasn't always necessarily written for quad core, but this is extremely fast from the end user experience. This is a tablet I could very easily use every day. But again, this is just my impressions after 24 hours. This may change as we run it through benchmarks and tests and sort of see what else it's capable of doing. But it appears to be a very quick, very capable tablet, which really deserves a top spot on your tablet wish lists. So guys, if you have any questions or things you want to see us covered in upcoming videos or to mention in our full review, leave your comments down below. And for all your coverage of the Asus ePad Transformer Prime, be sure to check us out on TechnoBuffalo for all your tech news as well. I am John Rettinger, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.